All right, hey everybody. We are in week 2 and we are breaking down the science of nutrition and exercise this week. As always, I'm going to introduce him like this every week. The man, the myth, the legend, Casey Mitchell, got him here with me today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks, Brad.
I do joke about that, but honestly, Casey, you are the man in this subject. You've helped me out so much, and you've helped a lot of people bring actual rooted science into a way that people can understand this on our program. So I'm so stoked because speaking of which, this last week, the breakthroughs for people have been huge. And they went from a lot of people that at least I work with and have heard feedback from, they went from understanding that they need to eat a certain way to understanding why it's working in their body. And a lot of freedom came from this week because it didn't become about needing to be perfect. It's just once you know, you can make more choices. And it takes a lot of the emotion out.
Yeah, Brad. I mean, the reason I'm so passionate about everything that we do is, I hate to see people who are putting in really great effort and not being rewarded for it. And usually it's because of a misconception or just a misunderstanding and some kind of a process. But I mean, that's my whole thing is like, look, if you're working out as hard as you're working out and not seeing results, let's fix it. If you're focusing and feel like you're restricting your nutrition at a certain level that is, that seems challenging and hard for you and you're not seeing the benefits from it, then let's fix it. It's all about fixing it and making it better for you.
Yeah, 100%. And also just knowing that how to look at it. Like we had a few people realize this week, like actually a bunch of people's breakthrough was the fact that, wow, I have been riding the scale as my governing factor and I have not been paying attention to my either body comp for the first time, but even measurements. And that was freeing for them to really be like, wow, for some reason I have been giving the scale the golden standard when that is really, honestly, if you're doing it right, the scale cannot tell you what's happening.
Yeah, and I think every single person that's kind of made that complaint about scale weight usually follows it up with, but I am fitting in some pants that I haven't fit into for a long time. And it's like, whoa, just take a look at those two things, put that together and realize what you just said doesn't make any sense. You should be totally happy.
Yeah, exactly. So last week we really broke down the building blocks of nutrition. We reviewed and encouraged people to use the Habits of Health tracking app. So by the way, guys, I hope you're utilizing that. Again, I'll give it a little nod for it because I need like 9 reminders before I do stuff. The people that are doing it are finding a lot of relief, and it's really simple and easy. So HOH dashboard app or whatever app you want to choose to start tracking, it's super helpful. But the dashboard app helps you track more than just your nutrition intake. It tracks sleep, it tracks inches and all those other things, and it can be graphed on there as well, which is amazing. We talked about getting body comp and measurements done. Like we've talked about, a lot of people have gone and got their body composition tests done, which have been really cool. So this week, let's do a quick recap. So last week, we really covered like the science of weight loss in general. Like it really, mainly with giving a broad overview, it's calories in versus calories out. You really can't hide from it. With some small factors in between, which I'm excited we get to cover that next week. But we spent a lot of time, which was a lot of people's breakthroughs, which breaking down that there's a difference between just calories in, calories out, and a fat burning stage, especially, and even more in depth on our program. You can be following plan or be following the ideas of it, but there is a science behind what the layout of plan is that will put you into a fat burning state and really understanding the benefits why. Like, again, we kind of covered some different things. Like you can follow a loose plan or not be as dialed in, or maybe a 4 and 2 plan works for you. You can still do calories in versus calories out, but it may not be, you're still going to have the nutrition pieces that are going to be measured for you. So there's really like really no issues with under-reporting because it's already dialed in for you. It's still structured and it's got a plan. But you may have to deal with the not fat burning, deal that where you're not going to have as much lack of hunger going on or extra energy because you're not in that fat burning stage. So, Casey, anything you want to say about that real quick? We really spent a lot of time breaking down fat.
Yeah, where I would go with that is like all diets work and all diets don't. Okay, and basically what that means is if you're coming from a 4,000 calorie intake and you only require 3,500 calories to maintain your weight, not gain or lose, and you start eating 3,000 calories, you're going to see some reduction. You're going to see some benefit. So it's that paying attention and focusing. So even if you're not perfect on the 5-in-1 program and you're in a calorie deficit and your calorie deficit is less than what you were burning before, then you're still going to see weight loss. But what we're talking about here is what people, when you're attracted to the program that we health coach on, is you're attracted to those people who lost like boom, 3 to 6 pounds in the first week, and then 2 to 5 pounds every single additional week after that, like clockwork. And that's because they're following the system and the protocol to make it successful. But will we still continue to see a half pound, 1 pound loss if we're taking in 3,200 calories when our body only requires 3,500? Yeah, we're going to see a reduction over time as long as we can comply to it. What generally happens is we get frustrated and we go the other direction. A couple of days out of the week, and then a couple more days out of the week, and pretty soon we're back to over maintenance calories, and then we're seeing no progress at that point. We're completely plateaued.
Exactly. And to that point, going a little bit further, Casey, you, I think last week actually is the best explanation I've ever seen, which is really giving a lot of clarity to what to see results, but also the freedom in knowing that you don't need to be perfect, to kind of give some sanity to it. So I loved your explanation that helped people really get that, this is what helps you be more on track. It's progress over perfection, and really kind of helping understand like the emotional connection to what we're doing so that you can see better results. And if you want to do a quick recap on that, I think that was huge for a lot of people last week too.
Well, you're as good as your very next meal. If you screw something up, awesome. That's not awesome, but it happens. It happens all the time. It happens to all of us. So choose that next meal to be the one that gets you back on track. Too many times, I think what people do is they screw up on Tuesday and they say, well, I've already screwed up for this week, so I'm just going to start again on Monday. Whoa, that's like too many days in between before you get to feel good again, before you get to start moving closer to your goals. So yeah, just hop back on the horse, realize and own that you made that decision to have something that you really enjoy, and you did it, and now you're going to move forward and go on with your next goal.
Yeah, and because now that people understand fat burning, most people now a little bit more diligently, it's something that you can get out of and get into. Like it's not like, ideally the best factors, now it's best factors will happen when you stay on track in it, but you can have a mistake or have a day, we'll just call it a day, because everyone has a day. And then just right back on track and get back into that fat burning state.
Well, and here's the other cool thing, Brad, is, and this can be kind of the little teaser, I guess, for future episodes. But when you get into the optimization of what we're doing with exercise and nutrition, and even in nutrition fat burn, there's a time and a place where you get to add carbohydrates in post-exercise above and beyond your normal carbohydrate levels and still stay in fat burn. So that's really cool. I know that's probably more than people needed to hear right now, but at least you're going to tune in to episode 5 or 6 or how many we're doing of these. But there's like, if you want berries in the summer, that's a lot of my clients, they want that, we're in Oregon, we have great berry season. Okay. Well, how about if you get to do those after your exercise? Would that encourage you? Would that help kind of reward you to go and exercise at a level that would allow you to introduce carbohydrates back into your system and then an hour later be back into fat burn? You bet it would. That motivates a lot of people.
Yeah, and we'll get into more clarity of that because that, again, like I said, might blow some other people's minds, but that's down the road for a lot of you, or at least like we talked about last week, like choose your plan. Like if you know that that's not going to put you in fat burning, but you're still on track and you're just dealing with maybe the extra cravings, like these are all tracks to get to me. I actually, by another win of last week is that I had a lot of people with the full understanding of it choose to do a 4 and 2 this last week. They understand that won't be fat burning. They understand the results will be slower, but they do know the benefit of nutritional structure, getting all their content in. But like they said, like we finally, Casey, we've been waiting like 9 months. We got good weather now here. People want to go out and enjoy it, and that's their decision. They're trading like ease and just closeness and for structure and a little bit slower. That is just as good. But again, they know the results are going to be slower. It's all good. At least they know nutritionally why they're doing and how it's going to show up in their body and what they need to deal with. So all good.
Yeah, you're not beating your head against the wall. You understand and you're good with it, and that's the important thing, because this is still an emotional game. It's still a psychological game. So we have to allow those freedoms. And
speaking of that, the recap's going along. We got to get into the science of it, but when you also take care of yourself nutritionally, there is also less of a psychology game because your body's more balanced. And that's the other reason to stay on top of it, because the less highs and the low, the less insulin's ups and downs, the sugar reaction with the body, like the more you're dialed in, the less you have to deal with your body reacting to the stuff you're putting in it. that emotional game comes out of the mix too, the more you're dialed in over time.
Yeah, the feedback loops, the understanding what a portion size is. So when you have your lean and green in the evening time and your stomach is tight from having all those small meals, and all of a sudden you're having a larger meal with your vegetables and everything, and it feels like, whoa, I have like some stomach fullness here. And then the leptin feedback loop, because you're having good, solid, nutritious food, sends back a signal that says, you know what, you've eaten enough. You're good to go. And you're like, man, but I wanted to eat more because I felt like I was hungry earlier today. Or like I was eating all these small meals. But it's like your body's like, you know what, really, you're kind of good. And that's what we're getting that healthy feedback loop through this program as well, that allows you to move on into maintenance or performance, and know that your body's had enough nutrients.
Awesome. Which is a good recap on all this. You know, we're coaching mostly on our program. We have some people following along that are learning about nutrition that aren't necessarily utilizing our nutrition plan right now. So a lot of these same factors come in. It's just easier to do with our nutrition blocks that we've built in. So, so we can get into exercise, and let me share my screen real quick here. To do a full recap on last week, because really it actually sets the tone for us to be able to talk about exercise properly. So last week we really broke down fat burning, and these are the things to realize before we even get into exercise, just in fat burning, in weight loss, on our program, that you're choosing to do fat burn. If you're not feeling well or off results, these are quick. You can self-navigate almost every time or work with your health coach. These are the ones that will help you figure it out. So one, before we even get into the things, is body comp measurements. Like, again, I hear so many people talk about like, oh, the scale's not moving, but like, because of what we talked about last week, you got to lean on body comp and your measurements. So please do that ahead of time. This will set you up for success. And then tracking and food log, because one, you're just more successful when you track. Like you're just more diligent to not underreport and to be more mindful. But also you can go back and see where the building blocks are off. And especially if you're on 5-in-1 plan, logging is super easy. It takes like click, 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 and you're done on the app. So Casey, if you're not feeling, there's either one or two things. You're either not feeling well, or you're not seeing results, or it could be both. These are the go-to things that are probably off. So one is compliance on plan. Like that's a no-brainer. So that's the first one to go to. So do you want to speak on that?
That's the biggest thing that we're seeing. I mean, if you're allowed certain things on the plan, if you, for example, like if you have a lean protein source and it allows you to healthy servings of fat in the evening time, you should add those things in. Don't think that you're doing something better. I mean, it's like when I design menus for people and they come back to me and they say, hey, I didn't do this because I thought it would be better. It's like, no, this is I gave this to you because it's important for your overall plan. And to take it out is you're no longer doing plan anymore. And that's the same for whether you're doing 5-in-1 or you're doing paleo or whatever you might be doing. But if there's a plan in place, follow the plan.
There's a macronutrient and a whole balance. My favorite is when people get started on our plan, they're like, oh, I thought it'd be better not to have that other meal. No, you need that protein. You need that nutrition. You need those, like all the macronutrients. You need to stay with the plan. So there's that compliance of plan, and there's just flat out, like, we beat up on the cake last week, but it could have been anything. Like, just flat out, like, or flat out just not eating on track. That could be the reason. Well, obviously, you're not going to feel good. You're not going to be in fat burning. The next one to go to is calorie intake. We're expanding on this in a little bit here, but there's two reasons. Either you need to focus on calorie intake if you're not feeling good, and that reason would probably be because you have too big of a gap between your calories that you're expending and the calories you're intaking, which means you might fall into this category. You're either exercising heavily, and then on the other end, maybe you're not taking in your healthy fats on the day. Because those add up. There's a reason why they break down your lean and green meal into the category oops, hold on. There we go. Into the category of, make sure, yeah, I'm still recording. The categories of lean, leaner, and leanest, because ones have different amounts of fat content in them. And if you're not getting enough fat content, they want you to supplement with one or two, depending on the category of healthy fats. That's going to translate into calories and also benefits of healthy fats. So that can be the reason why you don't feel good, too big of a deficit on the calories. Even though you're... Let
me get into that a little bit more, Brad. That's if you listen to the Habits of Health call, that was basically what I call paying the piper. So your body has a very unique way of slowing your metabolic processes down in order to make up the difference. So it's almost like saying, hey, you're taking in fewer calories, So therefore, unless you're mindful of your activity and mindful of your NEAT activity and just moving around and doing the things that you normally do, it will start to slow you down, especially if it's inappropriate, if it's just way too low. Now, don't get me wrong. Starvation mode is not, I mean, it's a real thing, but it's not. If you were on a stranded island without any food, you would not come off that island heavier or even at the same weight. You will eventually lose weight. In fact, people can lose weight to the point of starvation and death, as we all know and have seen in third world countries and things like that. So starvation mode doesn't mean that, oh, I'm in starvation mode, so therefore I can't lose any weight.
So expand on that a little bit from an outside source. You're saying that because it's something that really talking about when your body goes into starvation mode, too big of a deficit, there is the potential for your body to start protecting and really like slowing down to really basically slow down the ability for you to lose weight or
exactly. Yeah. So if you're normally a pretty chippy person, you're normally like, hey, my printer's upstairs in my wife's office. So if I want to print something out, I run up there and I go grab it and oh shoot, I forgot that and I need to go print another one. If there's a day where I feel like, man, I'm just going to send everything through the printer and I'm going to go get it an hour from now because I just don't want to take the extra energy to go up there and do it once, twice, or 3 times, right? So that's basically, or here's a parking spot that's closest to the door because I just don't feel like walking the extra 30 meters. You know, that kind of thing. It's like your body, and you may not notice it. I mean, pay attention to that because it's really important to identify. But if your body's just giving you those signals, like, I don't feel like getting off the couch to clean dishes today, or to do laundry, or to go get the mail in the mailbox. If you're having those, your body's starting to slow down and preserve energy and calories. Now, eventually there's going to be a breaking point and it will just lose anyway. But this is about feeling good. This is about doing a program that can allow you to thrive. This isn't about suffrage.
So as a recap on that, if you're not feeling good, it could be because of too much of a calorie deficit. And what I love, we were actually running a plan on talking about that, but there is a thing called starvation. I think a lot of people are aware of it, but it's not like an automatic. Like it can happen, it's a thing, but it's not a thing. It's a smaller factor than people might think. So that could be the reason. Or if you're not seeing, like if you're actually tracking body comp and measurements and you're just literally not seeing like a deficit happen or you're not seeing changes happen, it could be that you're finding a way to play around with your condiments to the point, or extra healthy fats to the point where you're taking in as many calories, even though you're in a fat burning stage, as you are putting out. Like for those that have been tracking, you realize that with condiments and healthy fats, you can add up 400, 500 calories like that, no problem. So if you're not seeing results in all those forms, more than just the scale, it could be you need to check. You could be in a fat burn, you could feel great, but it could be that you're taking in way more calories, or maybe you're just not that. Maybe you just don't move that much. Maybe you don't expend a lot of calories during the day. Maybe you're not creating as much of a deficit as you think. So that's a good place to go check right there. Anything you want to add to that, Casey?
No, I mean, just there's a lot of sneaky things out there. I mean, we were talking earlier about, labeling, the labeling laws. If it's under a certain percentage, they don't have to count that specific calorie until it gets over a specific limit. So if there's like half of a calorie in a gram of sugar substitute, for example, and they can report 0 calories. But if you have 4 or 5 of those, it's going to equal, at some point, it's going to equal a whole amount. And then there are calories in there. But under the labeling laws, they don't have to register those. They don't have to report those. The other thing is, if you've ever looked at something that was low sugar or lower sugar, and you start to actually add up the number of carbohydrates in the item and realize that there's some missing calories, like, hey, it says there's this many calories, but there's only this many carbs, and the sugars are only this much. Where's the rest of it coming from? And generally, it's like a sugar or alcohol, because alcohol is labeled differently on food labels. In some cases, they don't have to label it at all. So if you see things that have a high amount of sorbitol or inositol or some of those other sugar substitutes, sometimes, and which, by the way, sugar has 7 calories per gram, whereas carbohydrates have 4. But sometimes you'll see that discrepancy on the label, and it's a kind of an aha, like, ooh, they're just not, they're labeling low sugar, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those calories are super low, because there's sugar alcohols that are involved to give you that sweet flavor.
Exactly. So, it's like, be aware. We're just giving people the opportunity to be aware. So the next one, it actually would be, if you don't feel good, you might not be feeling that fat burning, feeling, is carb intake, which you just hit on. Like, you can hide it. I actually, my grand story on how I first figured this out on coaching people was, I had a client who just was totally diligent on plan. And then come to find out after exploring it, he was having like 30 packets of like, I think it was Splenda a day, which says 0 grams of carbs, but really it's 0.9. And so by the end of the day, he was having like 27 extra grams of carbs, which if you check out the daily need on to sustain a fat burning stage, he was like 30 grams over it because of all the extras. So yeah, carb intake would be the first place to go if you're not feeling good. And that's, if you're tracking on the app, you can pay attention to that really simply and easy. And then there's the other side of it, Casey. Some people are actually like sensitive to this and they need to pay attention because their body might be a little more carb sensitive. Do you want to explain that?
We're talking about the size of the individual, the muscle mass and that kind of thing.
Yeah, like some people may be like, oh my gosh, I actually am hitting 85, but I'm still not feeling good. Like,
yeah, so some of our shorter people, and I get to say that because I'm 5'3", but some of our shorter people, they just, and especially ladies, they just don't have that lean body mass to support those additional grams of carbohydrates. So in some cases, we have had to see people drop down. Because remember, true ketosis, a lot of, if you go into just pure ketosis, we're talking a lot of times under 60 grams of carbohydrates, which might even be like closer to 30 impact carbs. So some people do need, every body is completely different. So some people might be able to get 85. Some people feel better at 80. Some people feel better at 75. Some people might feel better at 60. Then again, some of our larger individuals or exercising people might be able to stay in fat burn at 110, 120.
But what's cool is about this is it's all in the same realm. The whole factors are there. It's pretty easy to tell why it needs to be shifted, you know, a few degrees to the left or a few degrees to the right. So,
and when you're tracking, you know that, and you can make that adjustment.
Exactly. You can go in and see that. That's the beauty of tracking, why we're encouraging you to do that. The last one's protein amount, Casey, and this one's actually probably the least important that comes into play, but it's something to be aware of. Do you want to hit down the protein amount right there on how that can make you not feel good?
Yeah, so generally, I mean, we need at least 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass, and that's just going to help sustain the muscle mass that we already have. For most of our individuals, especially because of the nutrient delivery and everything, we see an increase of lean body mass even at that level. For a lot of people, it's much higher than what they've been doing in the past, especially ladies sometimes who oftentimes don't eat enough protein or don't like to have a large amount of protein. So that's really something that we got to take a look at. If we get into much more, the body has that unique ability of preserving itself and protecting itself, and it'll go through a process called gluconeogenesis, which is breaking apart amino acids, trying to make a sugar out of the amino acids or a glycogen. So, and again, we have to still deal with that in the body. Our body does this all the time anyway. It's not like like this only happens under rare occasions. Your body's kind of going through this storage of fat, release of fat, use of protein, building block, all that stuff, putting it together. It does this all day long. So, the minute you eat a meal, you could store body fat at that meal, but you don't eat again for 2.5 to 3 hours. So then you release those fatty acids, you use those throughout the rest of the 2.5 hours. So your body goes through this process. So it's not like this amazing, unique thing, but it is a challenge for us if we're trying to stay within a certain limit to allow us to guarantee us to stay into that fat burn mode.
Exactly. So good thing to take away from that is that you're probably taken care of on our plan. Like, it's got you right in there. But if you are a very small woman or a small person, I hate to, last week we picked on the cake. Apparently, only women can be small. I actually was always the smallest person in my class growing up. I somehow made it up to 5'10" eventually. But if you have a smaller lean body mass, like say you're a smaller man or woman, you might have like 90 pounds of lean body mass with a total weight of like 130 pounds. Well, on our plan, that means you'd be taking around 15 extra grams of protein in a day, enough for you to start breaking down like you were talking about, which could be why you don't feel good. So what's cool about here is if you're not feeling good or not seeing results, if you're measuring and tracking properly, you can figure out why or how in a second. So here's all your answers you ever need to know about dialing in your nutrition. So now we took out the guesswork for you. You can always figure it out. Other factors for not feeling good are obvious, like if you're not sleeping, that will be a factor in it. Stress, possible medications, like electrolytes, for those that are in Arizona or, those hot states and they're just not taking in enough electrolytes and they're exercising possibly. We'll get into that next week. But that brings us to another reason why you might not be feeling well is over-exercising. And we want to take on exercise on plan. So Casey, that really leads us to the main topic today. Now that we have this figured out, explain to us the science of exercise and the science of exercise on our program and what you should do if you're exercising. But before we can get to that, I'd love for you, with all your background, share some just general thoughts on your thoughts on exercise, because you've seen it, you've done it, you've helped people with it, you've done it in all shapes or forms. Just give us your kind of overview from your expert view on just exercise in the health realm.
Yeah, I mean, the total number of benefits that you get from exercise just by itself are huge, and you could argue whether that's walking around the block or just staying moving and that kind of thing. But I mean, we look at the cardiovascular benefits. We have the blood sugar regulation benefits. I said heart, right? I said heart already. Heart benefits, cardiovascular, yeah. And obviously just controlling overall attitude and mood. I mean, there's so many positive endorphins that are released when you're exercising. So, for stress release, that's a huge thing. So many people just need a little time for themselves to kind of go out and do a good effort level and then come home feeling really accomplished from that. And I mean, you guys all know when you get done like weeding your garden or something like that, it's still physical movement. I mean, you're moving around. It may not be like weight training, but when you're done, you actually feel pretty good. I mean, you feel accomplished. So we want to get that same feeling from your workouts. So I just did something that was, something I didn't necessarily want to do, but I did it and I feel great. And then that should help encourage you to continue on with your exercise program. What we usually say just starting out on program is that if you can get into just a normal routine, I think one thing that's missed is that if people get so excited that they're starting a new journey that they jump into a weight training program or a cardio class or a circuit class and they get into it way too hard, way too fast, is I kind of want to talk about the process of recovery. And one of the things I used to always teach was people say, how often should I work out? Well, it depends on your intensity. If you work out so intense that it takes 24 to 48 hours for your muscles to not be sore any longer, then you don't need to work out again until that muscle soreness is gone. And there's your every 3-day split, right? So I work out Monday, Thursday, Sunday, or something like that. And that would be totally fine for most people, especially as you're getting into it. As your body starts to recognize that and recover from that, you may need to increase the number of days a week. And that's getting into the whole frequency, intensity, time, and type thing that we've talked about on a lot of different calls before too, Brad. But pay attention to that, because that's going to have a direct effect on a lot of things, such as your sleep, your ability to not suffer on those off days that we were talking about, like that whole printer scenario. If you're so sore and tired from your squat workout the day before and you're not going anywhere the next day, you might completely wipe out that level of calories that you burned during that squat workout by not doing anything the next day. So again, that intensity has to be relative to the person. That's something that's really important. Throw away the scale, because at that point, now that you're actually, because remember, I used to come over to people all the time in the health club and say, if they're on a certain machine that I know we have, because unfortunately a lot of the health clubs are businesses, so they have to have machines that the public is looking for. But if you're on that hip adduction machine, or let's say abduction machine, the hip out machine, which targets the butt and outer thighs, I'll come over to somebody and I'll say, hey, is your goal to strengthen that area, or are you looking to build that area? Okay. 99% of the people on that machine are trying to make it smaller. Guess what? Smaller is in the kitchen. We hear about this all the time, right? The abs are made in the kitchen, all this other stuff. Same thing. The reduction of body fat is done through your nutrition, through your calorie burning. But you're not going to burn. There's so many other exercises that burn way more calories than the hip abduction machine. Okay, so getting that point across, which is usually an aha moment for people, and they say, what do you mean? And say, well, you're either building or you're strengthening that area. Which one's important to you? Neither. I want it smaller. Okay, let's go do something else. Let me show you something better. And that might even be the treadmill. Might be better than that movement. Now, we know we have, fitness people and figure people that want to try to build their butt muscle. That would be ideal for that person.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah. I think that was it.
Well, there's a few things you share with me over the time, which is like, you've had so many, like the average thing is people come in, they're like, okay, I want weight loss. And then you try to talk to them nutrition, like, oh, I'm only here to work out. And like, it's like, you can't out exercise the fork. I think a few things that you've said on calls that have really resonated with people is, one, you can't out exercise the fork. Exercise, is like, maybe 20% of the equation. Most of the time, I think you go on to say it's actually like, nutrition is actually 100% of the equation. And then you've also said that like, Fat loss is different than weight loss. So they're just keeping this all in perspective when you exercise. And then you've also shared with how many people come in and they just like, they lean on exercise and a massive amount of it to be their staple in their routine. But the problem is eventually we get older, we get more grown-up-ish, and then you don't just have time for it, or you injure yourself, or a major life event happens. And then literally the thing that was, you put all your eggs in one basket, and now that thing's not there anymore. And then you don't know how to support it. You shared all the different views of it.
Yeah, trainers hate to hear this. And I'm telling you, as a 25-year trainer, and I just had a staff meeting the other day where I discussed this again. Trainers do not want you to hear this. If your nutrition is dialed in, just about any program will help you get to your goals. Okay, unless you have a very specific strength goal or a very specific building goal of some kind. If you're talking about generally looking healthy and athletic, just about any program. So, I mean, what I mean by that is trainers like to get really intricate with their programming. They want to get down to the detail on how many sets, reps, and certain exercises you do, and which ones you do in a stretch position, in a natural neutral position, or a relaxed position, all these other things, because they want it to look just really brilliant and intelligent. The thing is that if you follow 100% nutrition and you're pretty awesome there, you could probably go do kickboxing and see amazing results, yoga and see amazing results, Zumba and see amazing results. It doesn't have to be the world's most intense boot camp, which I do take a lot of pride in, but you don't need to do it if your nutrition's 100%. Now, you put the two together and it's a pretty amazing deal.
Yeah.
But and again, trainers want you to have to rely on them and their design. But the thing is fix your nutrition and every trainer will look amazing. And I mean that from every trainer will look like an amazing professional that can get you to your goal weight because of that reason.
Which is actually perfect that we talk about that, because I love that you hit on the endorphins. I always say, like, one of my things is, like, everyone talks about that hardcore workout they did once and then they didn't do it for another week because they were so sore. It's like moderation and more of long-term is the deal. And so to kind of prove that point, like, find something you like doing. So that actually one of the people who was like, I'm going to fall 4 and 2 this week because I need structure, and I didn't realize I could be in a structure out of that, out of 5 and 1. They were like, I need to hit exercise. And they were like, I hate the gym. I said, you got to go to the gym to exercise. What do you like doing? They like dancing. They love dancing. That's activity right there. So working out, and you've talked to me about this, figure out what works for you. Because what you just said there, if your nutrition is dialed in, almost any kind of exercise will accomplish that. Will accomplish a really good body physique.
Well, and this is how people get confused with whether they're doing like intensity, insanity, or they're doing their certain level of CrossFit or kickboxing or whatever it is. I mean, my own mother-in-law is a good example. She was making an effort to drive over to my gym to do personal training because she wanted to accomplish some health goals. And the fact that she had to go all the way across town and take a lot of time out of her day for a 1-hour session was starting to get kind of wearing. It was wearing her down. Then what happened was right in her own office building, practically, like right next door, a kickboxing place opened up. So she joined it. She found herself going there on lunch breaks because it was easy, or right before work because it was easy. So the consistency was there. The reputation was there. She started seeing results. And then the next thing you hear is the thing you got to be careful of is, I tried personal training with Casey and it didn't work. But I tried kickboxing and it really works. Oh. Well, the thing is that at that level of consistency, just about anything would have worked. So that's the point. You got to find something that's easy, convenient, fun for you to do, that you're going to enjoy doing for a long period of time, because all of them will work or all of them won't work depending on your situation.
I personally love it because, you think about all the people that are like, I went to a trainer, but that trainer just didn't work. It's like, well, there's probably more your nutrition didn't work or your consistency didn't work. Like, we're beginning to be able to figure out exactly what pinpoints. And the only thing that varies is the slight variation of our own body makeup, because we all are built a little bit differently. So just to kind of give a point of that before we jump into a workout, Casey, I want to share some of our local stories. We could have shared a lot. So one is Nicole. She lost 60 pounds on her program and then decided to dial up her nutrition to a whole nother point. And to kind of prove the whole thing everyone we were talking about here, she started upping her game to 6 days a week, basically, of boot camp, spin type classes, because she loved it. She had the energy. She felt great. She wanted to up her game. But she moved in, she had moved past weight loss originally into like a 4-and-2 program. And then all of a sudden it wasn't working for her. She was tired. She wasn't feeling the energy. And she thought that's what she needed to do because before 5-and-1 was a weight loss thing. But she still had body fat she wanted to lose, but she needed to support the amount of activity. So you can see her after, which is on the far right. She started exercising. As we got dialed in, she made the adjustments to a 5-and-1 fat burning state that we were about to break down on how to do this at a higher level. And she lost, I believe, I want to say it was 7% body fat in less than 6 weeks. Mind you, it was only 4% or 4 pounds of fat, I believe, or 4 pounds of weight on the scale. But yeah, I think it was like 35 to 28% body fat. That is a huge reduction. That is huge. And so she did that through a fat burning state with high energy, and she supported that with what we're about to explain there. So it was working for her, but before she adjusted her nutrition plan, that amount of activity was not working for her. She did not lose almost any body fat percentage through that time. She wasn't as consistent. She wasn't enjoying it. The energy wasn't there. You can see the slight adjustment made all the difference. Another person, speaking of doing what you love, Jessica Johns. This is one of your first big projects in this. So actually, I'll let you explain Jessica Johns.
No, Jessica, highly active, mom and wife, and just an awesome person in general. And she's doing her Taekwondo and getting into that and really wanting to thrive. And then, of course, also a runner, wants to go out and increase her cardiovascular activity, and was just essentially stuck. And she was one that actually had a lower threshold for carbohydrates. So when we made a couple of corrections, there's just a small tweak here and there, but the biggest one was the decision to just follow it. And follow it consistently so we could learn the body, learn why your body's different than anybody else's and what its mixture needs to be. And that's what she did. And boom, she hit fat burn. And guess what? When you hit fat burn and you know how you got there, you get to ride that wave for a long time. And she rode it right into amazing success. And she's still seeing progress. And some things have been now readjusted and reformulated from that point. And the progress is still happening. And I would say at this point, it's a lifelong application now.
Which, speaking, tying into the beginning of the call, I've seen her enjoy her summer days. She's not it's not perfect every single day, but her goal is to get back into the fat burning stage and do her performance plan. She can support that with the 5-and-1, and that was her goal, was to lean out even more. And
and what's so cool is that, when Jessica gives me a call and she's like, hey, we got to do measurements again, I'm just so stoked. I'm like, this is awesome. I can't wait to see where we are now. It's they're not oh, I have to go do measurements or anything like that. It's and even if that's the case, because I encourage people to measure every 4 weeks, no matter what, even if they were just, hey, I just got back from Las Vegas. I was there for a week. There's no way I can measure. No, it's a learning opportunity. You have to measure in the good times and the bad. You have to measure so that you know what your actions and decisions, what they actually did, so that you can learn your body. So that you're learning your body over a lifetime. We've all been doing that. So now we just get to really put it into play.
Which I love about this, with your example of any activity when your nutrition's dialed in. She's doing Taekwondo and she's running periodically. This is her results with that kind of activity. It's amazing. Yes. That's incredible. She loves Taekwondo. She found that a few years ago, and it's just it's been her jam ever since. So this is a great example. So Casey, as we kind of wrap up here today, kind of get to the end of this, kind of explain to us working out on our plan. There's 2 ways to basically decipher it. So when you kind of break down, people are okay, should I be exercising? Maybe they are taking on exercise, or maybe they plan on the future on ramping it up. What are the 2 ways that there's this. On our 5-and-1 program, if you're exercising, moderate activity, which you can, just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, is if you're walking, maybe even general jogging, periodically through the week, getting getting some activity in. Light weight resistance, no more than 20 to 30 minutes, maybe yoga, something like that. Nothing crazy energy expenditure. You're actually totally nutritionally taken care of on the 5-and-1 plan. You are good. You don't need to make any modifications. Yeah, you're good. And the other thing is if you feel good, then you're totally good. The goal is to feel good. You're working out, you're active. You haven't created such a calorie deficit that you're exhausted or hungry or any of those things. So then you're good. Just keep doing what you're doing. The only adjustment comes in is if you are someone like Jessica, who's running a lot and, intense Taekwondo classes, or high levels of running, or long circuit training classes, or any of those things. So Casey, So
Well, you know what? Possibly, let's even take a look at possibly your employment, or if you have a labor-intensive job.
yeah.
You know, there'd be reasons why you would want to, increase certain things. And then just going back to our format is increasing the things that are going to allow you to stay in the feeling that you want to feel. So if that's control of appetite, clear mind, and everything, then increasing fuels to make sure that you stay in fat burn. Or if it's just increasing calories, we can do that too. So that's really defining that. But yeah, you're right. If you see, here's the other thing: if you start to see an increase in lean body mass, which you should, you have to readjust. You're not always going to be at that same level of protein or that same level of calories for the rest of your life. If you put on 10 pounds of muscle over a year, every pound of muscle is like 50 to 70 calories being burned just by being alive. So we have to supply you with that, or if you pull that away, your body's going to say, I'm efficient. I don't need that because I don't have those calories. I'm going to get rid of the muscle too. So yeah, it all comes down to that intensity and where you want to go and how you want to feel.
Yeah, I'm glad you wrote that in there because, I mean, like we said, exercise can be anything if you're in a labor-intensive job. So I think a really good way to kind of, for the people that are watching, it took me a little bit of time to really get this, but I loved how simple it is. If you're on 5 and 1 or choosing to do any of the other programs like that we talked about, like choosing not to be in the fat burning state with the 4 and 2 like we talked about, and you're exercising and you feel good, then you're good. Just keep going what you're going. I mean, especially because we're mostly
don't fix it if it ain't broke, right? Don't fix it if it ain't broke.
Mostly today in this, and what we talk about next, we're mostly supporting during a fat burning stage of plan. If you're trying to maintain fat burning stage on one of our programs, if you're on 5 and 1 and you're exercising and you feel good, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But you are going to definitely want to pay attention to body comp and measurements, not the scale. So let's say, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Which brings us to the next one, is that if either you're not feeling good or, which we can go back to what we just talked about earlier, self-navigate, it might be one of those things, but either you want to take it to the next level or a higher level intensity, or you're just not feeling good, that's where we would go next.
Yes, and where I was going to go into that, and we obviously have no time to cover it today, and it's going to be in one of our next ones, but it's that optimization of recovery, and it's getting into some additional nutritional support, which is supplementation, that can actually help with a lot of this too. It can actually be a much easier way, but there are a lot of details that we want to get into before you have to make that jump or make that decision to do that. Yeah. So we can ride this wave as long as we're still surfing.
So I think as we wrap up today, and yeah, we'll cover it next week, is going to be all about the X factors, electrolyte, stress, macronutrients, all those different things that come into play. And we will break this one down a little bit further. But let's say you're going into that, what you call, you like to lay it out as performance fat burning. Say you're doing high levels of intensity and maybe you're either not feeling good because you're not supporting it, or you want to be able to support that. There's really only 3 main things you need to focus on. So like we talked about, to be able to support that amount of activity, or to help you figure out why you're not feeling good, is basically when you exercise at that level on 5 and 1, you just created too big of a calorie deficit. That's why you're hungry. That's why you're probably tired. So your body's already building up and burning fat. So what you do, Casey, is you just backfill with a few extra servings of healthy fat to make the deficit still a deficit, but not too much where you're tired or exhausted. So do you want to just explain that real quick?
And let's make something really clear here too. The leaner you get, the closer you are to your goal, is also going to be a huge factor. Because once your body, if you're hungry at 30% body fat, you're really hungry at 2.5% body fat, okay? Because your body already knows, look, hey, if we're stranded for more than 5 hours, there could be a lot of issues if you're that lean, right? But if you have stored body fat available and we can tap into it, you can go a long distance by tapping into that fat. But again, if you're 5 pounds away from your goal, if you're 10 pounds away from your goal, 15, 20, 30, whatever, the closer you get to your goal, the more specific and by design you have to be, because your goals are exceptional now. They're out of the health range. You're already healthy, right, at that point. Now we just want to get to that cosmetic value or that athletic value or whatever it is you want to take it, because you're in charge of your own personal goals.
Exactly. So an example of that, Casey, so people can chew on it this week, is just adding 1 serving of a healthy fat right before a workout per se.
Sure. And also making sure that they have all their fats that's allowed through them in the program. So number 1, compliance, making sure by the letter in the compliance guide. And then, yes, and then we start taking a look at adding something that if you're going to want to stay in fat burn, is adding the things that will allow you to stay in fat burn. Knowing that if we add too many carbs, we won't. If we add too many protein grams, we might not. So by default, healthy fats is kind of the direction to go in that scenario. Again, we nailed it the last couple of times too. If you decide to stay in just a low calorie plan, then those macronutrients are not as important. Okay, it's just basically total number of calories in versus calories out.
But in this case, we're trying to maintain fat burning state for optimal nutrition, but also maximum not being super hungry and having good energy. And like you said, the reason why you do it, because it just helps you kind of be impervious to temptations and, dialing in your nutrition. So one last example on this is Nicole. So she started exercising, we got that dialed in, but it was just not enough at first. She didn't have enough to support her exercise. So all she did was add one serving of healthy fat, and she prefers coconut oil. It's another one she uses quite a bit. There's other healthy fats you can utilize, and that was enough for her to feel perfect. And then what happened is she started getting so much stronger, and she started losing her body fat that she upped her weights and she upped her intensity, and then she got tired again because she went from it was like this, and then we fixed it, and then she went like this, and then we fixed it again. We added 2 servings of healthy fats.
And increase lean body mass. At some point, I know she's a smaller lady too, but at some point she's going to need to increase additional protein.
Well, that takes us to the next one, Casey. So the next one you want to check is protein. So just make sure that one's that's why. Actually, explain protein real quick, and then that's pretty much it.
It's just 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. So knowing where you are. I mean, there's some generalities, and it's having to, again, if you have a lot of weight to lose, then you probably also have lean body mass that your body has built to help support your frame that you won't need. So don't get this confused with that you may never see a loss of lean body mass. Yeah. And also understanding those measurements too, because guys who have metabolic syndrome and store a lot of body fat viscerally, which is around the organs, sometimes that'll get measured that way. So we just want to be mindful of how we can look at the tape measurements and the body composition together, or how your clothes are fitting, and it's just making sense of all of it. So that's what I would suggest is, or that's what I would recommend, is making sure that you have a well-rounded viewpoint of everything that's going on in your plan.
Well, that's what made total sense to me, Casey, because if you're say you're 400 pounds, you have a lean body mass that is going to support that, this muscle mass of that amount of size. So obviously you don't want to keep all of that muscle mass as you lose your weight. You want to lose a small amount of it, or else you'd be like a behemoth, caveman. For the other end, like the Nicole, we need to make sure that we're getting enough protein as it increases. So she might need to double check that, one, she's not overtaking protein to throw herself out of fat burning, but she's also taking enough to continue to support and build more muscle. So she might have to add 1 gram or 2 as she builds up her muscle mass. So that's a really good explanation. And then lastly, Casey, is you have been a big proprietor of this branched chain amino acids, to support that level of working out on plan. So you want to explain that? That's basically our last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, there's some specific amino acids that are basically metabolized in the muscle that are highly important when following a fat burn type of plan. And it's isoleucine, valine, and leucine. You won't be tested on this, but they're usually put together in a specific relationship done, according to the science, to really give you the maximum benefit. The thing that I really want to get into next time, Brad, is not only showing, I mean, it's almost like protein insurance, because you don't have to eat those calories in protein grams, but actually the body has it available to use. And it also mimics the breakdown, so a lot of the processes that happen when you break down muscle tissue. So basically what that means, it can start the rebuilding process. So sometimes when people just feel icky on 5 and 1, sometimes it's that body starting to break things down. Something like the branched chain amino acid can actually fix that feeling and that symptom, which would allow you to make no further adjustments and just follow the 5 and 1 plan accordingly. But I want to get into in more detail. I know we don't have time now. Maybe there can be a follow-up to this on, the supplement industry as a whole is very corrupt. It's very, in a lot of cases, just not accurate and not, for the most part, safe. Maybe. I mean, you could even argue that. But I want to get into, where you can find your supplements that will be effective, because again, we're not interested in selling somebody's supplements or products. We want to make sure people are feeling great on program. And that's when I introduce a supplement to somebody, it's fully for that reason. Here's how we can feel better. Here's the science that supports it. And here's the nutrients, ingredients in the product based on third-party testing, purity, potency, and delivery in a pharmaceutical lab that is licensed to do that. versus a lot of I don't even want to say mom and pop places because it's actually worse in some of the bigger industries, but we'll put things together to make a profit first. So the ingredients will be lesser, and they can say on the label that it contains this, but they don't necessarily have to say how much it contains. And there's certain things, just like with the medicine, that you need in order to be effective dosages to do what they say it's going to do. Okay, and there's lots of examples on that, but I think we can get into a whole topic on this.
I think, well, and that's where we're going to go next week. I think we gave people the building blocks to prove, to really sink home last week, now to take on exercise, the way to view it, the way to put it in. So, and actually just Casey is, because I remember when you first said branch chains to me, I was like, branch chains, what? So what branch chains are, is it's a supplement you can take. It basically, we don't supply it with our program. So like Casey was saying, find a good, credible one that's a quality one, because not all supplements are created equal. And basically you can take that to support your workouts. It's going to help with recovery and muscle recovery. And especially at that level of working out with the nutrition you're taking in, it's going to greatly assist that. So I think, Casey, what are some of the ones you recommend just off the top of your head?
Well, actually, the only one I recommend is the .fit one. But I mean, I don't know if we can attach a link on here so that we can put people in the right direction for that. But I mean, that's the only one I recommend. I've been followers of them for 20 years. And the owner and developer is somebody who's been as impactful in my life as somebody like Dr. Anderson. I mean, this is somebody who is a stand-up guy with integrity. And again, would rather you not take a supplement than take a supplement that does you no good. I mean, in that case, you would say, I can't get into the details of what supplements you should take unless you can take the right ones. Yeah. Because otherwise, just don't take any, because it's not worth it. And it probably is equivalent to not taking any because they're not accurate in their labeling.
Yeah, gosh, Casey, thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge with us. And I think for me, I think a lot of people agree, but for me, sometimes it's the confidence in knowing what you're doing is the right thing that you're doing. And with all the knowledge and all the time you spent really figuring this out, it helps me figure out, I don't have to second guess what I'm doing, which is a mind game that a lot of people play. So again, just a recap for today, guys. Congrats on week 2 of our focus group. Now you know how and where to go if you're either not seeing the best results, and how to maintain fat burning. Like we gave you the key there to figure out exactly what can be going on. You can self-diagnose that. And now you know how to work out and plan and why, and some good insight on how that works overall and how it plays in the whole health. But if you're good on 5 and 1 and you're doing moderate, good to go, taken care of. If you're going to take it to a higher level or go performance, now you know the basis of getting started with this. And we'll go into more in depth in this next week. But next week, we're going to more in depth. We'll cover electrolytes, stress levels, sleep, all the other things that are huge factors that most people don't think about, but they all tie in a little bit. And then, guys, I just would encourage you guys, just progress over perfection. Just keep practicing with the app and tracking. It's not something you're supposed to just go be good at right away. Maybe some of you guys are better than me. It took me like 2 weeks to start getting actually good at tracking and doing all that stuff. But get a body comp test and stay with those measurements, because that's what we're going to continue to go through in this process. Week 4, we're actually going to break down body composition at a higher level. So Casey, thank you as always for your incredible knowledge on all of this. Anything you want to say as we wrap up today?
Hey, just keep commenting on the threads below. That encourages so many other people. That encourages everybody in the group. So if you got something out of these videos, let us know what it is. When you have your meetings with your health coaches and your visits with your health coaches, let them know the type of things that are moving you forward. And that also helps us determine what the topic of the week is going to be, because we just want to make sure everybody's getting better every single week.
That's exactly right. All right. Take on week 2, guys. Have a great week. Thank you, Casey, as always, for everything.
Go get it, guys.